So you're married, but you're in love with someone else. I know how that feels. I've been there myself. Maybe you feel some of the things that I felt when I was in the situation, such as nobody has ever loved me like this before. Oh, there are people who love me, people who have, people who do, maybe even people who will, but nobody will ever match the intensity of what this person feels for me. The completeness, the wholeness. It's amazing to be loved like this. And this person understands me more than anybody else ever has. I mean, I've tried to explain myself to other people. I don't even have to explain myself to him or her. I just start talking. I start saying what I feel, what I think, what I want to do in life. And this person gets it like nobody ever has before. And I feel so completely understood and accepted and loved. That means that this is the person I was meant to be with. Yeah, I know I'm married to somebody else, and there's all kinds of reasons I married him or her, but this is the person. This is the one who completes me. If only I had known him or her back then, this is the person I would have married, because this is the person I truly need to spend the rest of my life with. And I can't even explain to anybody else what this feels like, because I don't think anybody else has ever experienced this. It's that amazing. It's that unique. It's that unusual. Hi, I'm Dr. Joe Beam. Did I describe some of the things that you're feeling toward this person? Well, I just described for you what I felt toward the person I was madly in love with when I was married to someone else. By the way, as we go through this, if you see that button right down there that says subscribe, if you want more content about relationships, particularly about love, click that button where it says subscribe so we can give you even more information about relationships and about love. But if you're in love with somebody else right now, and yet you're married to another person, can I give you 4 potential paths that your life is going to go on? And it'll probably be one of these 4. And then 2 results that are going to happen based on which path you go. It'll take a few minutes, but just something for you to think about. The first thing is this. You may try to stay in your marriage and yet continue in the relationship you have with your lover. Let me tell you right now that that's doomed. You may think, no, it's not. I've been doing it for a while. I can do this. I can make it work somehow. I can balance it all out. And you may even be able to do that for a while, but you won't do it forever. Eventually, that's going to change. Either your spouse is going to find out, and then you're going to face all kinds of misery, or your lover's finally going to say to you, I can't handle this. It's got to be either her or him or me. Make your choice. Another thing might be that you decide that you're going to leave your marriage for your lover. And of course, you have that right and privilege if you choose to do so. I'll explain more about that in a couple of minutes. Or it may be that you think, I need to end this affair. I do love this person with all my heart. She loves me more than I've ever been loved, but because of my morality, what I believe is right, what I believe is wrong, because of my responsibilities not just to my spouse, but if you have children, my responsibilities to him or her, my responsibilities to my religion, if you're part of that, my responsibilities to society, whatever it might be, you might be thinking, okay, I need to end the affair. Or you may be thinking, what I'll do is I'll wait until my lover ends it. But in all likelihood, one of those 4 things is going to occur. You're going to try to keep doing both, and it's not going to work out very well for you. Or you're going to leave your marriage for your lover, a real possibility. Or you end the affair, or eventually your lover does. But what do you need to be thinking about when you try to decide, well, should I pursue one of those 4 or just wait to see what happens? Well, understand that there's a concept, 2 things you need to grasp right here. Everything in life has a short-term consequence and a long-term consequence. Now, when I say the word consequence, you might think, oh, then you mean it's turning out badly no matter what, because consequences connotate bad things. No, not necessarily. I'm just saying that results, if you prefer that word better. I call them consequences because it really does come as a consequence of whatever you do. And when you think in terms of short-term consequences, what that means is I'm focused on what makes me feel good now. And if you focus on short-term consequences, often you wind up making decisions that are not best for you. Now, we could illustrate with other parts of life. You understand that. Like, I'll eat whatever I want to now because it tastes good and it feels good. But you realize that as you get older and as you go on through life, that has consequences. That if you eat whatever you want to, whenever you want to, you're going to have problems with obesity, heart disease, cholesterol, all kinds of things that can come along there. But when it comes to thinking about this, too often people think in short-term consequences as well. I did. I was married to one. Her name was Alice. As a matter of fact, her name still is Alice. I was in love with another. I won't give her name because I don't want to cause any problems here. I'll just call her Sally Sue, since I've never met a Sally Sue. I was concentrating on what I felt when I was with Sally Sue, how wonderful that emotion was, and kept thinking, I don't want to end my marriage because of the fact that I think that's wrong based on what I believe in value. Plus my children, all the other kind of things I was mentioning to you. But whenever I'm with Sally Sue, life is amazing. It's wonderful. I feel all these things I don't feel otherwise. But you see, when you focus on the short term, what I feel now, then you tend to neglect thinking what's going to happen tomorrow and the day after that and the year after that. Believe it or not, even the decade after that. So short-term consequences, when you think just about that, what I feel now, they don't typically lead to the best decisions in life. Well, what about long-term consequences? Well, that's thinking about what happens later on down the road. It's not just what I feel in 10 minutes or 10 days. It's what about 10 months or 10 years? And not just what I feel, but what else happens in my life, in the life of my spouse, in the life of my lover, the lives of other people that matter to me. For example, if you have children, if I'm going to be thinking about the long term, then I'm focusing on not just now, but the future. The short-term future, 10 minutes, 10 days, 10 months, but the long-term future as well. And that's when you start thinking about the effect on your spouse. No, I didn't want to do that. I was focusing so much on what I felt with Sally Sue that I didn't think about how it was going to affect Alice. As a matter of fact, I went ahead and I divorced Alice because I had every intention of being with Sally Sue. Alice wound up not having as much money to live on because of a lot of reasons there, but one is just the division of income, if you will. I didn't think about the consequences it was going to have on her, not just financially, but emotionally, where she was now cast adrift, if you will. Oh, I kept saying, you're fine, you're wonderful, life will be good for you, some great man will come along and make you happy. But those weren't real thoughts in the terms of reality. Those are more thoughts of my own fantasies, trying not to feel badly about what negative effect I was going to have on her and how it affected her social relationships with my family she'd had before. In other words, I didn't think anything other than the short-term consequence for me. What do I feel? And didn't think much at all about the long-term consequence for Alice, the woman I'd been married to for 15 years when I divorced her. I justified it at the time by thinking to myself about all these negative things about Alice. Here's what she did wrong. Here's where she's imperfect. But it was still focusing on me and what I felt right now. And I certainly wasn't focused on the long term in terms of my own children, who were 9 and 6 at the time that I divorced Alice and left her. But you see, they weren't always going to be 6 and 9. To think about how tough it was for them to have to work through life living with a mom who now had to go get a job. She didn't have to before, but she did now. And seeing their dad only every other weekend. And realizing that all the things they needed from me, I couldn't give them. And just every other weekend. But you see, I wasn't focused on my kids' future at that point. I kept telling myself, kids are resilient, they'll be fine, no problems here. As long as I'm with Sally Sue, I'll be happy and life will be perfect. I wasn't even focusing on Sally Sue's future. In other words, what the relationship with me was going to do to her life in terms of how her friends would view her as the other woman who had stolen a man away from his wife. I wasn't thinking about what it did to her own religious beliefs over time, and they were important to her. Even the time that I took from her that affected other things in her life that were important to her, like her own family. You see, it was all about me and how I felt right now. It wasn't really about how it was affecting other people. But when it really came down to the bottom line, it wasn't even thinking about how it would affect my future. In other words, affecting who I am. So when you make a decision, what you're going to do, whether you're going to leave with your lover, try to balance the two of them together, which you know is not going to work long term, whatever you're thinking about, don't just think about the short term of what you feel now, but even about your long-term future. For example, if being involved with somebody in contradiction to your marriage vows violates your own morality, your own belief and value system, that actually affects your future because it will lead to you becoming a different person than you are now. You may think, oh, no, I'm already becoming a better person because of my great love for my lover. But think about the longer term. What happens to an individual that's living in contradiction to the things he or she valued and believed before? And think about the legacy that you leave. Now, in my case, Alice and I finally worked it out. The lover eventually left me. Interestingly, in these situations, that happens the majority of the time. Alice and I actually remarried each other and have been remarried now for a whole lot of years. But even to this day, I see the effect on my children who were 9 and 6 when that happened, who are much older now, married, have their own children. But I see the legacy of what I've built, what I have dealt. I see the legacy of my actions and how it affects their lives to this day. Now, if you have had these short-term consequences or long-term consequences, write about them in the comments below. If you've left your spouse for a lover, write below what happened. You may write down there, hey, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. And if you do, then write that. We're not going to cut those comments out. Or you may write something a whole lot different, where you write about, when I thought about the short term, this is what I expected to get. But in the long term, this is what I actually got. So make your comments below. We'd love to see what you have to say. Now, if you're thinking, I'd like more information about what would I do if I tried to stop the affair and put my marriage back together, is that possible? Are there certain things I need to go through? The answer to that is yes, it is possible. And yes, there are certain things you need to go through. Contact us. We're at marriagehelper.com, marriagehelper.com, or call us. As a matter of fact, you can see our number right below. Pick up your phone, call that toll-free number right now, and one of our folks will be glad to spend time listening to you, hear your story, help you realize what you can do if you choose to do to put your marriage back together. And if you're torn, if you're thinking, I don't know what I really want to do, they'll listen to you and help you think that through as well. As a matter of fact, even refer you to one of our coaches if you want to talk to somebody in detail. But it's your life. It's your decision. I truly hope that for your own sake, consider the effects in the long term, not just the short term, on you, your spouse, your children if you have them, and your lover. That's the wise thing for you to do.